So what would you say it in on the paid ad side you see as one of the biggest questions that contractors don't ask their provider?
I think they're not asking any questions sometimes, right? And that's the problem. It's like they come in, they're like, "I need a vendor." And I was the same way. Like, my experience is internal marketing, right? I was inside of a business running their brand. And when I came into that business, this is what I'll tell you how I learned, and I had to learn quickly. I had an agency that at that time in 2012 that wasn't performing. They were wasting my spend within the first 2 weeks. And I had large spends. I had 5 locations. So wasting that spend and then asking for me for more budget, I had to learn as to what was happening. And I learned that we weren't day partying. I learned that we had traffic coming outside of the United States. We're in California, like, that didn't even make sense, like, but wasn't managed. And and it was measured, but the measurements that were coming out, no one understood them, and they didn't have time to ask the questions as to, "Okay, what does this mean in terms of conversion? Like, what's actually happening? How do we innovate? How do we make this better?" And I think that there wasn't a true partnership with the agencies. Um, and the agencies are experts. I don't wanna know it all. I wanna know enough to innovate and to partner with the right people so that I could have those conversations. So that's kinda how I learned. I was like, "Oh, no. I'm failing forward right now. I stepped into a giant bomb." And I'm like, "What do I do? I've got to learn." So I literally Googled it. And, and yeah, and then took a lot of classes, and been to a lot of conferences just to continue to learn what's going on, and just think that we're just not asking enough questions, and knowing our numbers and holding someone accountable for what's going on and having real conversations with people because your agencies are right there and they wanna help you so much. I mean, look at y'all, you're out there talking and educating people on different topics, like, that's meaningful,
So
that's
what questions should we be asking? Like, for somebody
like
who hasn't gone through the trainings and everything else, like, what's the number one question I should be like, "All right, we should know this answer right off
Or
the top
maybe
of our
like
head."
a top 3, because 'cause I'm sure there's not just one that you'd want
Yeah,
to ask, but,
yeah.
like, if you guys both had a perfect list of a couple questions that, like, somebody who literally knows almost nothing, they know where the ad shows up, they just don't know what it does, how it gets there, or anything. What kind of questions should they be asking?
what does my market look like? And you can ask any vendor this, right? They can give you a competitive analysis, they can give you market saturation, they can give you that information. But if you don't know your numbers to that market, that data that they're gonna give you, you're gonna just be like, you're gonna take their numbers and say, "Oh, all of that's true,"
Hmm.
right? You need to know your capacity numbers and forecast for your marketing spend and kind of have a general idea of what you wanna spend. So my question would be, do you know your numbers internally to be able to give to a provider, right?
You
And
mean we
say,
should
"Hey, I
we
wanna
shouldn't just
spend."
do PPC because everybody else is doing it?
No.
Because that's what I see.
Yeah.
I see that, I'm like, "Everybody says I gotta be on PPC."
Well, because it's Google and you're scared of Google and you're like, "I should be on all of Google products." Like, yeah, sometimes, but sometimes not. It depends on your market and your area. And PPC, you saw the decrease in spend. Now you're gonna see different things happen as the market shifts. So my question to any owner would be, do you know your numbers enough to have a conversation with any vendor about my budget, about what's my market saturation? That's what the first I'd ask them. Tell me about my competitive analysis. Tell me about what you're seeing about my business in the audit. And then, okay, give me a couple of days so I can go and research all those things that you gave me in this cool report and say to myself, "Is this right?"